What the heck does that mean? We get that question a lot. Envano means moving forward into creativity. We started off fairly early in the whole internet world. I actually started off in a different firm along with my friend Tanita over there, and then created Envano in 2001. We've been playing around in social media when there wasn't social media. It didn't have the term yet. We were building message boards and all kinds of neat technology for our corporate customers. So we're a very client-side firm, and we're up in Green Bay. And we've got some guests today. Amy Bailey from Festival Foods, who is the, what would you say, Queen of Social at Festival? I like Queen of Social though, don't you? No?
I do a lot with our social media messaging. I also do a lot with our digital content that we have online. But I will say really quickly, my background is in journalism. I was in journalism for the Associated Press and then a number of newspapers for 17 years. So I'm among you people. You guys are my people.
All right, there you go.
Thank you.
Mary Frank Arlt is with Kohler.
Yeah. Speaking into the fake mic, I am the global digital brand manager for global content at Kohler Company. So I oversee our North America social team as well as our branded content team, which is made up of a lot of journalists. I have a business degree background and I actually did my MBA here at Oshkosh.
And Michelle Tatum?
Good afternoon. I am the Director of Strategic Communications for ThedaCare. So my role includes internal communications, employee communications, change communications, as well as all external. So that would involve public relations, social media, etc. So we've got a portion of one person that handles social media. As much as I'd love teams, and I'm going to maybe talk to my panel partners here to learn how they have so many folks. So we have a portion of one person that handles social media as well as PR.
Cool. We're going to start with Amy. So we've got a bunch of questions, and I want to try and move through it fairly quickly so we are able to give you guys a chance to ask some questions as well. So Amy, since you started your career, how has social media impacted your role in business?
I'll just start with my career in communications generally speaking. Just to give you an idea, I graduated from Wechat in 1998. I worked at the Associated Press Bureau in Milwaukee for a few years. We had one computer in our newsroom that we would take turns to use. So if that gives you any indication of the lightning speed at which technology has changed in the communication field, it's truly astounding. So I went on to report from a number of different national events, including the national championship at Michigan State in East Lansing, when I was dictating my story on the phone to my last job in journalism was at the Green Bay Press-Gazette. And I basically had instituted a policy among our news staff to tweet, report, tweet. So they were tweeting, basic information about a story, writing a quick few paragraphs, then tweeting out that link again. So that just kind of sums up the evolution of news and communication that I've seen in my career. When it comes to the business side of things, I think now more than ever, and I'm a big proponent of this, everything is about stories. Everything is about good communications. My employer's Festival Foods, we're a grocery store. Ideally, we make you feel good when you're with us, and we want to have that same kind of feeling on either our social channels or our digital communication so we can replicate that store experience online.
Michelle.
Yes.
You're up.
Okay.
How has social media enhanced ThedaCare?
Absolutely. So ThedaCare being a healthcare system, our business is people. It's about health, it's about care, it's about healing. And so using social media, we are able to connect so much quicker and get so much closer to our customers or our patients. And so this is regular online, everyday. I mean, social media is the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And so our patients are very open about going online and telling us about their care experience, more so and quicker than, yes, we survey patients after they're with us, but literally, if they had a good experience in the ER or they had a very emotional experience in the ER, we're reading about it online 24/7, by the way, 7 days, right? 24/7, every day of the week. And so how do we get out there? How do we hear? How do we learn from an organization to help our patients and have their experience be that much better? How do we get in front of something? How do we hear about those great experiences and celebrate that with them? So it really is just getting that much closer to our patients and our communities. And it's also given us a different way to connect with our communities. So yes, we still work with media relations. And so going through broadcast media, et cetera, is a great way to tell our stories, but this is another way to connect with them. And so we can measure that through advertising value, but we can also measure it through impressions. And so it's just, again, great way to connect, show thought leadership, etc.
Cool. Mary.
Okay. So what is the biggest challenge what is the biggest challenge social media has caused you in your current role? Any stories to tell?
Okay. They'll be edited to protect the innocent. I work for a huge global company. We have 35,000 associates all over the world. We're in every major market in every country. And as you can imagine, we create a ton of data, from complex customer relation systems here in the US to maybe a spreadsheet of email addresses in a less developed market. So for me, what's really a current challenge is how do we bring that whole customer experience together? Whether you called, you emailed, you subscribed to a newsletter, we saw you at a trade show event, and then you tweeted me with a problem, and then we resolved it, or 6 months later you tweet me with something else. How can I bring all of those disparate data sources together to really give me a really powerful insight on the customer? And then also using social listening to help go towards new product development. So I can share, because our new product development is confidential, but I can share an example of one that I just heard this week. Ocean spray cranberry juice. A lot of people like to drink it. A lot of people don't talk about it because when you talk about cranberry juice, it's associated with UTIs, exactly, which is why nobody talks about it. But a cohort of mine was working at Ocean Spray, and they found out through listening that women actually do really like cranberry juice, so they just actually had to find a different way to talk about it that made it socially acceptable. But they gained all of those nuggets through social listening. They didn't have to have focus groups because it's not something someone's going to feel comfortable maybe talking about, but they were able to mine the data. And so for me, it's how do I connect all these different data sources that social provides to really take our business to the next level?
So what is your company's view of social as it relates to public relations?
Well, they want all the things to be good things, but I think that kind of cuts across no matter what your business is. I'm in a very traditional industry, right? Grocery stores, food, come in and shop the store. So I think we're having to do, and I would think that this might be an across the board kind of thing, that we have to do a lot of educating internally, that I have to regularly explain and do it in a way that makes people feel engaged and involved, but to kind of say, okay, because this person wrote this, it's not like we're going to close down all of our stores or anything. So you're providing perspective, but you're also trying to get at how important it is. And that kind of goes to my point previously, that it's important because it's genuine. And I think what we do really well at our company is, like I said, make people feel good. So how do we do that online? And how do we do that in a real way? But we're regularly having to explain, because I do a Facebook post over here, I can't automatically say we sold X number of units. So how do we marry those two things? So I think it's a lot of education that many of us have to do internally, regardless of what our industry is. So we're educating the outside about what our company does, but we're educating our company about what we do and the important role that we play.
I'm going to ask all
Sure.
in your opinion, what is the best social platform for your brand's audience? And then, is there something you're keeping an eye on that's the up and coming?
So at Kohler Company, my team manages 35 different brands, and each has a very different audience. So, okay. At Kohler Company, the team that I manage has 35 different brands, and each one is on different platforms. So, for example, our Power brand is really significant on LinkedIn because we're going after specifying engineers, which is a really narrow group of business-to-business people. So even though people might think, oh, Instagram's shiny, they don't care. They're not there, and I can't find them because you're not going to sign up for Instagram with your work email, and you're not going to put your preferences in a way that I can use you through targeting. Now, when I think about our plumbing business, on the other hand, it's beautiful luxury experiences. So Instagram is a great place for that because we have beautiful photography, we can interact with influencers and designers in the market. So it really depends on the business unit. But the one that I'm keeping my eye on is Wechat. Our Asia market is in love with it. I have it. It's fantastic. It's essentially, how many are familiar with Wechat? Raise your hands. Yeah, okay. So it's essentially like if you put Yelp, Amazon, Facebook, maybe some taxi service, everything into one app, it's all in one place. And it's really amazing. And it's very ingrained in a lot of the Asian markets that we're in, where you see an ad, you can take it to a store, you've got a coupon code, loyalty programs run through there. So I'm keeping my eye on that because we're launching it in Canada because there's a large Asian population there that it's really popular with. So constantly keeping a trend on what's coming, what do I not know about, especially sometimes they're blocked in the US. So it's really me relying on my team to tell me what's hot.
So I'm talking about what again?
What, in your opinion, what is the best social platform
Yeah,
for festival, and then is there an up and coming?
Yeah, I think Mary hit it on the head. Like, depending on what our message is and what we're trying to get across, each platform plays an important role. So I don't know how many of you guys know about our company, but we do have a team of dietitians that do a recipe testing and recipe development for our guests. As you might expect, they also produce great food photography. That does really well on Facebook, and it does really well on Instagram because those are really nice pictures and get at a lot of trending hashtags, whether it comes to like eating healthy or plant-based diets and those types of things. People write to us about great experiences that they have that, to Mary's point, could play really well on LinkedIn. Like, do you want to be part of a great company, a great culture? So it kind of just depends on that. And I would say in terms of like trends, I just keep an eye on the big players because, 2 years ago, Instagram stories didn't exist. So not only do they exist now, but how are people using Instagram stories? And the super creative way that different brands are using that different functionality is absolutely incredible. And email marketing too. I have one email account designated just to company emails, and whether it's the sudden use of emojis in subject lines or it's particular call outs or it's GIFs, that I'm looking more toward the innovation in these kind of standard, almost foundational pillars of social media that we've come to count on.
I would agree on the comments about recruiting, right? So always recruiting, again, in a healthcare system, always looking for those next nurses and doctors. So LinkedIn, that's kind of a basic one. For us, again, with patients and families, it's Facebook. They just go out and they share great experiences. They share photos. So I'll put out to you. So if our number one most commented or most posted Theta Care visual, if you will, is Theta Star, right? So the medical helicopter system. So that's by far number one, hashtag Theta Star, that people will post about. What's number two? And if you know it, don't say it.
Yes.
Theta Baby. So it surprises me. So maybe I'm like with my Facebook, I have to love you before I connect with you on Facebook because only because it's I post pictures of my family and that kind of thing. So that one I do hold a little bit closer. So I am always surprised how often people will post pictures of their baby and they'll tag it Theta Baby, to the point where a couple of years ago, we started giving out onesies to all of the newborns or to the new moms with the logo, and it said Theta Baby on it. all the time. You wouldn't believe how many people post about Theta Baby, which is great. Again, just that genuine, they want to share their experience and be part of that family, which I love. From an up-and-comer, and it's probably not so much an up-and-comer, is because our audience is that everybody audience, that community audience, probably would be Pinterest. So it really is one that we have on our radar. And again, similarly, we are about health and population health, and we'd rather not see you in the ER. We would rather be promoting tips on how to be healthy, tips on how to keep your blood pressure low, tips on, you name it, recipes and so on. So that is really something that we're looking to implement in the next year.
All right, you answered the next question, so I'll give it to those guys to
Okay.
this question.
I have some really good ideas for your Pinterest ideas. They have some really new ad units that you're gonna.
Oh no, that's
Hashtag Kohler ideas.
So what's your biggest success story for your brand in social media? I'm going to take Theta Baby, is that right?
No, that wasn't the one I was going to share,
but
but
that
that
is
is a good one.
Do you need the mic?
Go back.
Go back.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Ours was 2016. It was a Saturday night. We were watching Saturday Night Live, and we saw the Kohler toilet was being spoofed on TV. We didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it, but it started this massive text chain. What are we going to do? Are we going to respond? And as a brand, we could have been angry, and we could have gone, they used our copyright, and we could have been angry about it, but we took the opportunity to respond. So because I work for an in-house agency, we have our own photographers, creatives, everybody works in one building. By that Monday morning, we had the CEO sitting backwards on a toilet and writing, we've been cool since 1873. So it was just kind of a unique moment where we could be really reactive. And we thought, oh, great, we did that in 2 days. And we were like, that's not fast enough. So fast forward to 2018, and one of our toilets was featured on Jimmy Kimmel. The next day, we had a microsite up. We had an ad campaign up, and we had done some really cute creative around the lullaby toilet. So getting to be really agile and nimble and reactionary, those to me are the most fun.
For anybody who is familiar with our brand or our stores, last summer we had a deer that ran into one of our wine and spirits departments. So what's especially funny, and kind of goes back to my point about having to educate internally, that those pictures were taken by a wine and spirits manager and then sent to folks that are in operations that have nothing to do with what I do. Somebody happened to see it, know that I have some of the accounts on my phone and I monitor things, sent me the photos along the lines of, just so you know, not holy cow, this thing just happened. So this was 8 o'clock at night, grabbed the pictures off the email, loaded them to our account, and just kind of set it down. And within minutes, it became this thing, right? Because here's this deer in among the liquor bottles and the Kessler and the Busch Light. So it just took off. The next day, to Mary's point, in terms of being reactive, any news organization that called, anybody that wanted to use the video, I said, you can absolutely use it, just credit us. I mean, the answer always has to be yes, right? Now, it might not be a full 100% yes, but pretty close to it. So we opened the floodgates, it went crazy, and then to be able to work internally with our loss prevention folks to get the video of how it happened. Because you have this kind of wave, right? So there's the first kind of crescendo. So we wanted something else to kind of come back. So I got the video of the deer actually getting in the doors. And then it was a matter of okay, so we had so many people ask, well, how did this even happen? So then we could show them what happened. So it's, I definitely I've been working for this company now almost 4 years, and I still have that kind of journalism mentality where I'm thinking it's day 2 of the story. What's the next thing that I can tell? And this was kind of a way to lift the veil a little bit and show people how it happened. It didn't do as well as the first one, but still among our highest performing posts on Facebook of the entire year.
That's a good story. Okay, so I'll share my success story, but I'll stick with the Theta Baby theme, but I'll take it a little bit of a different direction. So again, in the spirit of our patients, our product, if you will. So we are so lucky that our patients want to share their stories with us. So a handful of months ago, we received a letter from a couple who shared with us that when they learned they were pregnant with their second baby, got to the point of ultrasounds, etc., and found out that there were some issues with the baby, where they knew that if they continued, that the day their daughter was born, that they would lose their daughter. And so they worked with, I always have a hard time telling the story. So they worked with our doctor and our family, our doctor and our care team, and she carried the baby full term. And indeed, that baby was lost on the day it was born. And so they really had a challenge with bonding and healing, but that window is very small on a day like that with a baby like that. So on the anniversary of their baby's birth, they came back to us and they wanted to donate what is called a Cuddle Cot. And a Cuddle Cot is basically an iced cot that is in the room with the family. And because of the cold environment, that baby is able to stay with the family longer, which gives them more time to heal and bond and be able to, bring other family in during that time and do the same. So not only did we receive this donation and we received this beautiful story from this family, they allowed us to share it with media. And so we reached out. NBC up here does a great program called NBC 26 Cares. And so they came in and they interviewed this family who, again, shared their story with us. And we were able to share that link in our social media on our Facebook. So again, in the spirit that what we do is help people heal. So I believe it's the most engaged post we've ever had. So from a success story that way. But for me, the success was not just the likes and the shares. It was the comments from other people who posted, not just comments to this family, but they posted birthdays of children that have gone through the same. So to me, that's what I would call success, and that this helped other people share their story, and it really made a difference for a lot of families. So took it a little different direction, but that just to me was what I would call success. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You can take that.
Oh my,
I'm done for a few minutes.
I'm so lighthearted by comparison.
So, following that, here's a question for the other stories. They were they happened, right? And you have to jump into action.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you sort of change your approach, change your thinking around being that? I mean, Amy, you have the advantage of coming from journalism, which has that sort of natural thing to it. But in social, how did you teach the organization, or are you still teaching the organization to be?
Yes.
Yes. No, I think it's a matter of we have a tenet in my company of letting the experts be the experts. So I don't really have anybody who is all up in my business to do things a certain way. And I think there's definitely a sweet spot with that, right? We're having to educate out because we are the experts, but at the same time, we also have a feeling of we know whether it's a particular video camera or it's a tripod or whatever it is. Like nobody is saying no to those things. So I think it's important to be part of a culture and understanding that while yes, there is a communication component that has to happen, there's also this atmosphere of we'll give you what you need, because at the end of the day, you're going to help us do what we need to do. And I think it's a matter of, like Mary was saying, like learning from those lessons along the way. So whether it's, and even before the deer thing happened, we had a situation at one of our Appleton area stores where one of our baggers grabbed a kid out of the way of a moving car, and somebody just in the parking lot took this kid's photo, didn't even like know him, know anything about him or us or anything. So this this kid, this teenager, just pulled this other kid out of the way of a car and like saved his life, and the post took off. So me kind of seeing that, I was like, called the store. I was like, you got to give this kid a cake or something, and you got to get somebody to take a picture of it so that we can acknowledge that we're seeing it, right? Because I think that's the most important thing, that you're acknowledging this thing is happening out here. It's okay, and here's what we're doing to not just get a bump out of it, but here's what we're doing to acknowledge that we're seeing it. Because I think collectively, regardless of what platform you're on, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, and you want to be engaged with. And that's all across the board. Even if it's not the answer, I can't tell you the number of times we're even answering people and they're like, we didn't even know that you would email us back. I mean, that's the threshold is so low right now, right? Because there's just so much out there. There's so much content. There's so many opportunities for interaction that people aren't expecting that. So the delivery of that is almost shocking to people.
Yeah, I would say we have a different atmosphere. Kohler's a pretty traditional company, being 145 years old. So, you know, a lot of people that I work with grew up in print. That's kind of how they think. They think big national TV ads. And so there's been this wave towards digital transformation and digital first thinking, which has been really powerful. And having a couple proof points like that where I can show, and that's the great thing about social is we have amazing metrics because we can track people, right? So while you may find it creepy, it helps me. And what I really like about it is, you know, it's not just, hey, it got out there. It's, hey, I saw that it got out here. Let me track and show you how it did with web analytics. And it helps us build up some credibility. When I started in social, it was definitely something you just let the intern do. Now it's a very high profile department, and it has a lot of credibility. So I think it's definitely swinging up that way. And then once you do that, people want to be part of your team. So when the second thing happened with the Shack video, we had creatives come forward and go, yep, I want to do that. So we didn't have that the first time because it was unknown. So we're kind of building that up, and now we have our own social creatives who just work on social all day, and they understand the platforms, and they keep pushing us and challenging us as well.
Best tip or tips for using social media in business?
For me, it's about being human. It's about being real. People see the difference. You are all on social media. You see the difference. If it feels like I'm selling you an ad, you're going to not be there. If it feels like it's real, you'll engage. So that would be it. And I would also say, expect the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So it is social. You'll hear the good things. You'll hear probably more bad things, but that's what it's all about. And I think you mentioned earlier, just don't be afraid of it. Don't step away from it. Step into it, and just know that's going to happen and have plans to handle it.
So when you see the bad, what's your reaction and action?
Absolutely. Okay. So for us, again, a bad would probably be a bad healthcare experience. And because of HIPAA, we try to take that offline as quickly as possible. Quite often, people will post not as a patient, but as a family member who's there. And so we can't engage with them about somebody else's healthcare experience. So we very quickly try to take that offline. We have a customer service team that literally is what they do, is they talk, they call and they talk with patients and try to understand what's happening, where they are, what the experience is all about and that kind of thing. But other than that, we do have some, we try to be human, and when we respond, we try for it not to be, the same exact, thank you for submitting your request, or, we try for it not to feel canned. Sometimes we'll actually sign it with our first name. Hey, you know what? I'm calling Dave right now, and we're going to get back to you as quickly as possible. I'll let you know, Michelle. So people, again, feel that it's real and just respect it that much more. But those real hot ones, we try to take offline.
Yeah, and so I understand in healthcare, but in consumer products and in grocery, is there a rule?
Yeah. So my team has a 2-hour response time. That's what we shoot for. We don't always hit it. but that's what we kind of hold ourselves accountable to. So within 2 hours, we want to acknowledge we saw it if we can't resolve it. And it might be, hey, we saw your problem, we're working with the customer service team. We also have a social media software where we actually have our customer service team working in the same platform as us. So we'll assign them out things that we know, like a product issue that my team can't deal with, and then we handle all the brand issues. So we're in there all the time. If it's somebody's negative opinion, which of course you're going to get a lot of, you get really thick skin. You cry a lot the first 6 months because you're like, somebody doesn't like their bathtub. It's so disheartening, and then you realize it's not about you. They're just telling you. So you have to get some really thick skin to work in social. But for us, unless it's a personal attack or it's factually incorrect or it's slanderous or something maybe negative about a model or something, we leave it up because that's what social is. You can't just edit what you want people to see. So we have some pretty strict policies on how we handle that.
Do you ever hide? Oh, I was going to ask a question. No, go ahead. Do you ever hide any posts?
Only if there is a level of swearing, or for example, we use a lot of associates in our photography. If they say things that are demeaning or negative towards the associates, we'll take it down.
So, along the same lines.
Yeah.
So you get a negative comment or something, and you start to work that one. You find that more often than not, that person is, number one, maybe shocked that they're being talked back to, they're being handled, and they swing for you.
I wish that happened more. Lots of times because we take them out of channel, when that swing happens, it's happening in email. And sometimes we'll go back and go, oh, we're so glad we were able to resolve that so that others in the public can see that it was resolved. But because if you've ever actually tried to change a toilet or something, there's 100 different parts. So we don't want this whole chain to be going on that's like, did you get part C76-11? It's just monotonous. So we usually take that to a private channel, and that's where the swing happens. And unfortunately, then it's trying to get them to go back to that public one and acknowledge it. They do, and then we high-five each other.
We throw a lot of gift cards at people. It's a super scientific method. No, actually, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. We're acknowledging that we're seeing them. It's even something as silly as like a Facebook message of, for example, we just had a blow up big pumpkin sale. A number of people got their stuff home, didn't like them. They're like, do I have to bring them back in? I mean, this is Wisconsin nice, folks. I mean, everybody's so nice to a fault of, I can document how bad it is. I'm like, I don't need to see how bad your pumpkins are. Here's a $10 gift card. And just what that creates, that relationship of you're taking care of me. I'm like, I'm just going to send it to your house. Don't come to the store. We'll get it taken care of. I mean, that's truly the way that we operate. And it's a $10 gift card. I mean, we're a $1 billion company. Like, I think we can manage it. So, and I think it's a testament to the company too, in that they say to us, just take care of the guest. Okay, this is how we're going to do that in the online world. And we've even had, to Mary's point, people come back and say, thank you. Don't instead of sending it to me, give it to your Food for Neighbor program. So, I mean, it's just a matter of creating that conversation and acknowledging people when they reach out.
So you really feel like you've created a community?
Yes, I would say so, particularly on Facebook. I don't think anybody would be surprised that that's kind of our big ticket pool, considering we're only in Wisconsin. I would say our guests are kind of skew a little bit older, and they kind of know that platform and understand it and engage with us that way.
So where do you see social going in the future?
Well, I think we found out this week it's not going to be video, right? I think it's going to be more along the lines of, and this kind of gets, I think, to a question that you had asked David about, like, one of the most important parts of what we do, or that you should have, or qualities you should have. I think be smart and be a good writer. I think if you are those two things, right, that's how people are consuming news and information. Even on an Instagram photo, people want to see what you're saying about that photo. And I'm going to stop reading if, the sentence doesn't make sense, or God forbid you're using a possessive S and it shouldn't be there. I mean, there are smart people out there, right? And we as individuals want to seem smart too. So that's a big part of what we're trying to do. And I think there might be the swing back more toward the written word. And by written word, I mean like words that you're writing in a post, not necessarily like a newspaper printed. And I think too, audio content. I mean, the way podcasts are now, I mean, I could see journalism collectively investing more. If you're going to do these long range investigatory pieces, having people in their earbuds hear what those either footsteps in the woods sound like or hear the clicking of the pages. So I think there is a huge frontier out there for audio content. And when it comes to like the inside of the factory at Kohler, or it comes to the beeping of those, like I just listened to the Dr. Death podcast, and not that that's a good thing, but you could, but
That wasn't ours.
no, that was a different state completely.
It's off the rails now.
But I think that gives incredible opportunities for people to truly experience the different types of things that you're trying to convey. So that's one that I'm personally keeping an eye on.
I guess with my marketing background, what I'm most excited about is the kind of convergence of Eecom with social media. So as you know, or don't know, maybe you can now Snapchat something and it'll automatically like order in your Amazon cart. So I think as more of those things start to be integrated together and there's more opportunity to be in one platform and make an actual offline almost purchase, or a purchase that you would have maybe made at a store in the past, that'll be really exciting for me, and being able to track that. And then also I would say, you know, organic reach on platforms like Facebook is, for a brand, it might be great for you as an individual, but for a brand, I mean, it's like 1%. So in Instagram now with the founders leaving, I feel like that's going to go down the tubes. So being really smart about doing few things really well with paid support is something that I'm constantly talking about, because you can't be everything to everyone, because creating content is also expensive for a lot of times. So I feel like that'll be increasing, and then I'm also keeping my eye on the global privacy data laws that are happening in Europe. That's going to change how we treat UGC, because it just opens you up to a lot more legal litigations. So keeping an eye on all of those fun things.
So in communications, I agree with you. Words matter, and so writing well, having it be clean is really, really important. But I would also say, you know, on our conversation that we had just before we came here, there is so much fake news, and you see a lot of that in social media, and you see almost where like more of your feed is that commercial side, as much as, you know, supposedly we changed, but it really hasn't changed. That we're just hearing more and more people are being skeptical about what's in their feed. So again, the more that it can be genuine, it can be real stories that feel like somebody wrote it and it's not, really, really polished marketing. That is where we're seeing our folks engaging and wanting more.
Cool. All right. Questions? Oh, we got some good. Let's see. All the way in the back. What do you do when it comes to crisis management? Because I know like Creative Care talked about closing and merging with facilities. A lot of times in there can be different things that come up in the food industry, like bad products. What do you guys do in crisis management?
Absolutely, really, very good question. My 1 year anniversary with ThedaCare was 1 year ago this week. And when I was recruited, it was all about the one new facility and merging, closing down the existing two big ones. And then my first press conference a week later was to announce that the opposite, that we're not building the one new one and we're investing in our existing facilities, which was a fun week to start. But honestly, the way I see social media, and kind of an extension to the question you asked earlier of what's the difference between, PR and media relations, is our channels are a way that we can control the message, right? So I love our media partners. I mean, we have great ethical, wanting to do the right thing media partners up in this neck of the woods. But still, from our standpoint, especially around crisis communications, it's our way to get the message out as quickly as possible to the folks that need to get it. And we know that the words are ours, and it's what we want to say.
I would say for us, we deal with that quite a bit, whether it's a product recall or maybe a labor issue we could be having. So for the majority of the time, remember how I said have really thick skin? We use a lot of social listening. So we're monitoring every like 5 minutes what's being said about the company on a global scale. And we have this huge display, it's like as big as this, and it's all these different screens. And if we get an alert that people are using our company name more quickly or around certain keyword terms that we've put in, it'll buzz my phone. And then we are constantly monitoring that to make sure we're staying ahead of those things before they become a crisis. And that helps us when we're thinking about messaging. What are people really talking about with this issue? That seems to be a key point, because sometimes it's not the point the company wants to make, but it's something you need to address. Otherwise, it looks like you're just talking over people. And then it really gives you a sense of how important is it on the scale of things. So if we're getting 10,000 messages a day and I get a bump on 200, what do I need to respond to and what can I pass on? And that sometimes depends on the source. Is it a bot? Is it a influential blogger? We've had issues with like a celebrity has a product issue and we're going to handle that in a very public way. So we handle crisis communications in a similar way where you mentioned we own our own words, but then people are going to comment on that thread. We'll engage with people who have actual questions, and people who are there to vent will vent, and that's not going to warrant a response from us.
Yeah, I think it comes down to providing that expert information. I mean, you had mentioned food recalls. We deal with that pretty regularly. Knock on wood, for the most part, we haven't, really sickened a huge population of people, but we are part of an industry that has, like I just saw a tweet earlier today, Hy-Vee had a pretty large E. coli outbreak situation. So there are many food producers that go to all of these grocers. So anytime that we can say, you might be aware of this, whether it's a salmonella situation or whatever, but just so you know, our product is safe. And it's just like, all you're saying is like, we're good over here. We're not casting judgment or trying to throw anybody else under the bus. But I think it's just people appreciating that kind of information. And we have a whole team of food safety specialists. So anytime that you can acknowledge this is a hugely important component for our company, and here's the kind of information we can provide you. So maybe it's not even at the moment of crisis, but it's almost like a pre-crisis type of thing. So you're, to Michelle's point when you mentioned it's as much about taking care of the patient before something bad happens, so that we're letting them know, here are all these resources and information we're making available before things really get bad.
Let me get you, because you were actually the first one at the end. So, specifically for Michelle, do you do that kind of stuff internally for your staff communications, or do you use internally based on employee communication development with the organization?
You know what?
Based on a conversation we had just before we walked in here, I'll let you answer that question because they have
Yeah.
one that we've been thinking about.
So social media is one half of my job, and the other half is brand content, which includes all of our associate communications. And just in the last 2 weeks, we launched a social app. It's through Social Chorus is the provider, and it's allowing associates all over the globe, whether it's manufacturing who doesn't have computer access during the day, or our admin associates, to download it to their mobile phone, company provided or not, and view company news in that way. So we are just getting started on that. We're testing different adoption rates now at different parts of the company. We're on a global, phase one is we're trying to get certain markets on board and then creating channels. But what's really nice about it is I can create a global news channel, and I can create a channel for one factory with a specific thing that might talk about when their lines are down, when their machines are or what their work schedules are and things like that. So it can be very niche and it can be very broad. And you subscribe like you would subscribe to any other, like a Facebook page. And then you get to grab the channels that are relevant to you. So it's helpful, I think, for associates who sometimes we hear from, stop telling me so much when I only care about a little percent. This they pick and choose. And then the things we don't want them to be able to pick and choose, like health benefits, we can send a push notification.
We use a program called Exonify, and that basically, what we use it for right now, although it could expand out, is basically providing daily tests for people of, so they have information about our company, like the percentage of ham that, in case a guest asks around the holidays, if I'm having a party of 5 people, how many pounds of ham should I be suggesting? So it's like kind of trivia, but information about kind of things that they could encounter in the store. So really it's an informational educational tool right now. But for example, we just had Food Safety Awareness Week. So at the beginning prompt, it was telling people the importance of hand washing and different types of food safety information. So that's what we use right now. Facebook got busted for overly inflating its video view numbers. What's that? What's a false claim? Fake news. But the numbers were inflated, or the numbers weren't inflated? But the numbers were inflated. Okay. Oh, was there?
A question for including you as well. Well, we all want to kind of innovate or find be the next person to hop on this new social media, craze or invention that comes out. How do you guys are able to identify, say, the next big thing? Like for some of you, you might have jumped on Instagram when you started to grow. And then how do you identify something like a dud, like a Google Plus or a Mastodon.io or something like that?
I have an answer, but I want to let you guys.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Only because I took a guess and it ended up being right. So anytime that I'm right about a guess, I want to talk about it. Like 2 years ago, right? Everybody was like, "Oh my God, Snapchat is like the best thing ever. Let's get an account." And I was like, I just had this. Let's just wait and see how it goes. I wanted to kind of double down on the whole Instagram thing. I started at the company in January of 2015. We did not have an Instagram account at that time. I started one, didn't really know what I was doing, tried to learn as I went. I'm very, very proud to say we are now over 11,000 fans on Instagram, which that might not seem like a huge number, but for a company that had 0 3 years ago, I'll take it. And it's something that we've really established a cadence that we have our mealtime mentors take over every Monday, talk about either particular foods or recipes or different types of things that people have really come to count on. And we're using that in a way that I think is fun and funny and interesting. So I just don't know that we would have seen the type of growth and engagement on Instagram that we would have seen if we would have went the Snapchat route. So in my mind, that was a dud, but I also didn't really understand it. So there was that.
I would say we kind of have a approach where we'll sign up, we'll get our name, we'll reserve our intellectual property, but we don't necessarily invest in it because not all platforms are built for brands. So when Snapchat first started, it had no features for brands. You couldn't do anything, you couldn't buy ads, you couldn't do a lot of stuff, kind of like Facebook circa 2008. Remember, we were all there. It was great. Now I can't live without Facebook advertising because it is super specific. I can do great targeting. They have amazing ad units. So as the platforms develop, they realize they need to, earn some cash and get brands on. So as they kind of are peaking up there too, that's where we kind of keep an eye on to make sure, when does it make sense for a brand to get on? Because just because it's cool with different people doesn't mean it's going to make sense for a brand. And then in addition, our demographic of people who purchase our products is a little older. Snapchat isn't going to make sense for us necessarily because the demographic's younger, but our recruiting team uses it when they're looking out for college interns. So we may not use it in one part of the company, but we may use it in another where they don't necessarily need the same KPIs or results that they have to prove.
So I'll share a little one real quickly that I'll start by saying we never did this, but I still think it's a really good idea. I worked for SC Johnson about a year ago. And so SC Johnson, Glade, Windex, right? SC Johnson, the headquarters in Racine was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. So there's like a cult following around Frank Lloyd Wright. And so it was literally, I dealt more with Frank Lloyd Wright requests in my time as the Global Public Affairs Director than any other topic or brand that we had. Ongoing tours, etc. And so people always wanted to come in and tour. Every weekend, we had literally every weekend you could come in and you could tour the buildings because of Frank Lloyd Wright. So in the spirit of social media, and we wouldn't allow people to take photos while they were in there because you're walking through real office spaces where there could be, information on the desks. I did say we should create a Snapchat filter that was all about Frank Lloyd Wright somehow, because obviously his design is so specific. So that was one thing that I really wanted to move forward, and then I left before I did. But I still think know what your customers like, how they like it, and then create something that connects with that.
That's a great one. Thank you for the question. It's an awesome.
Comes forward.
You get credit. Thank you for the question because it's a great segue to tie this up. First, I want to say, I'll answer it, but first I want to recognize the team I have here. Stevie and Alyssa are both graduates of UWO. Bill is our Chief Creative Officer. He's right there in the middle. And then Tanita is Business Partnerships and New Business. And then Amanda is Interactive Business Strategist. So if you have questions for them about Envano, they make me look good as best they can. So I'm going to go back a little bit. Does anybody remember Delicious? Yeah. Okay, so Delicious was a social bookmarking site. This is early days of social, I think. And then Flickr. I remember Flickr before it got bought and sold and bought and sold. Okay, so Flickr. So we had a customer, a manufacturing customer, Miller Electric down in Appleton. And when sort of back in the day, they would let us play. And it was wonderful. And we do that now in-house, and we do it with our customers sort of in tandem. But I would say we experiment even if we're not quite sure. And that doesn't mean we take it public yet, but we're playing in that stuff all the time as a firm that our customers count on to figure out what's going to be next. Because the reality is, if you've got a little time on most of these, they're not just going to take off overnight, most of them. But Delicious went away. Flickr, and actually drove quite a bit of traffic. Flickr drove traffic for years because we put lots of photography into Flickr, and it just drove a tremendous amount of traffic to Miller's site for a long time. I think it's still doing it. So I would say always keep experimenting. That's the beauty of the technology and the landscape we have today, is there's so much always coming out, and some of these things are going to go away. We're not going to say Facebook's going to go away, but brands come and go, and just Google Plus. I don't know if it ever got here, but and here it is, Google, who's massive, right? They should be able to figure it out, and they really just couldn't do it. So, all right, I'll say thank you. I know we've got an awesome speaker in a few minutes. I want to make sure you get there. Have a great rest of your day. Good?